I've been a big fan of Silent Hill ever since I played the series for the first time. From the first game, which I haven't finished, I was really scared of it. I can barely see anything more than 1 foot in front of me, and the radio freaks me out. To the second game, which is my favorite, and I got the ending I deserved for playing the way that I did. Not to mention, it would strike a chord in me that I wouldn't fully realize until I saw Jacob's Ladder, the most Silent Hill-like movie. And it's sad that the most Silent Hill-like movie isn't even Silent Hill. I like psychological horror, especially the way Silent Hill utilized it. For like a little bit. Then from what I heard, it started flip-flopping all around during the late 2000s to early 2010s. It sucks being a Silent Hill fan knowing all the sorta sucky games that exist. Although I haven't played most of the series. After the last mainline game, the series went on hiatus until 2023, where the series was brought back with a remake of the second game. I haven't played the remake. From what I've seen of the remake, the game honestly looks amazing. Because I've never really played the other games and wasn't brought down by any releases, I was excited for Silent Hill F. And when I played it, it was awesome. I loved so much about the game, though there were a few kinks along the way, mainly with the combat. I really like the story, the art direction is amazing, and the designs are really good, and I think the game is worth playing. Here's my review of Silent Hill F. I really like this title screen, and it does change later to reflect your place in the game, and that's really cool. Starting the game up, you can choose your combat and puzzle difficulty. This is really cool for anyone who either wants a challenging time with the combat but wants the puzzles to be over with, or if you want challenging puzzles but no challenging combat, you can do whatever. The story starts with a flashback setting up our main character and third female lead in the whole Silent Hill series, Hinako Shimizu, and her sister Junko. They mainly have this interaction at the start, and Junko is gone by the game's start. This does well in setting up these characters and showing off who they are. Anyway, we have our title drop, then we cut to what's currently happening. Hinako just got into a fight with her parents, well, mainly her dad, who just decided something, and she's leaving the house in a very angry manner. And we're getting into This game pretty much uses modern controls that you see in a lot of third-person games. You move with the left analog stick, and rotate the camera with the right analog stick. You click the stick to run. You interact with the cross button. I'm using a PlayStation controller because I like it. What? You're waiting for the other controls? They add so much stuff later on that I think it's better if I add as I go on. There are more controls in this game, more than just walking and pressing the interact button. I just don't want to spoil anything yet, because the moment I do, I'm spoiling pretty much most of the story. Anyway, Hinako walks down to town and finds that everyone has seemingly disappeared. She decides to see if anyone is at the Chizuruya General Store, the local store in the small town. Things eventually start getting weird when we come across a truck blocking the road ahead.
運転手さんいませんか?
We walk through a thin area between the buildings and we also meet Sakuko Igarashi, who's calling Hinako a traitor. For now we don't know why, but we now know Sakuko is okay, and that we'll be meeting her at Chizuruya now. Anyway, we reach Chizuruya and see that Hinako's childhood friend Shu Iwai is here, which leads to this small interaction.
さ、
なんか言ってよ。
お前こそなんか言うことはないのかよ。
相棒にないんだったら私にだってない。
らしいや。受け身な生き方なんてお前らしくないぜ。お前が自分で選んだ道なら俺はいつまでも応援するからな。
シュ
シュウ君、お待たせ。
One more friend to finish off the friend group that we have is Ninko Nishida. Compared to her interaction with Shu, Ninko is weirded out by Hinako just being there. Thankfully, Sakuko is here to smooth things over from here. And at this point, we have a fun little moment with all of these characters just hanging out. This is a good thing to do, especially with your main cast, as it can allow for a natural introduction to your characters and how they act. I think you might be able to get by without the required reading this game has. You might struggle a bit with piecing together the story as you go through the game because you're missing key details that I don't think are always given in the game outside of the required reading. This is the journal, by the way. It holds details for you. So yeah, everyone is having a lot of fun and... Wait, what is that? No, seriously, what is that?
ひなこ。
あ、ごめん。何？
裏切りも。
So, we're in our first chase in the game. We have to run away from something that's spreading these things, these flowers. And if you saw earlier, if you get caught, the growth spreads to your body and kills you. I remember my first playthrough where I panicked at this part and died. It caught me so off guard, I thought I was trapped, but I had to run to the right. Anyway, we get cornered here and...
ひなこ、しっかり。
お姉ちゃん。
Okay, so Junko is back. I thought she left a long time ago to get married. In this photo here, she's wearing a wedding dress. And I didn't know that on my first playthrough, but now I know that's a wedding dress she's wearing. I mainly learned she left to get married from the required reading. We finally escape and are introduced to how to use health items. You know that thing Shu gave Hinako when they met at Chizuruya? What he gave her was painkillers. The reason why is because Hinako has a lot of headaches, and Shu is just looking out for her. These are the base health item. They basically give you a small amount of health. It is definitely enough for you to get above the health you have left after that chase. Oh, and it also refills sanity. We'll get to sanity in a second. We have to find the way back to Chizuruya and... So, something is there, and Hinako thinks it's either Shu or Rinko. Don't worry, we eventually find out what it was we saw. What is that? What is that? We don't have time to think. We have to escape. You can dodge with the circle button. I would have saved it for the combat part, which will come up soon. But for this part, I feel it should be important because you're escaping this monster. I really like this part of the game leading up to the combat. It's really scary. You don't have any way of defending yourself, so all you can do is run. These enemies will also chase you till they lose sight of you. They are called the Kashimashi. They wield a knife as a weapon and walk very freakily. They swipe at you, they try to jab you, they can even try and grab you later on. Yeah, I don't like that. Anyway, this section is really nerve-wracking as you're being pursued by enemies. Some of them are already there, then some of them just jump in and catch you off guard. Reminds me of when I was playing Silent Hill 2 around the part where I was running along the side of the road, trying to stay away from the enemies. And then all of a sudden, enemies were being thrown out of the forest into my way. But instead of them being thrown in this game, they're out for blood. I really hate the sounds they make. which is a good thing. Also, the way they look and move, they freak me out, and I don't want to be near them. All of these things are good things because I think it complements the combat that I'll get into soon. And now we've reached the first real combat encounter, and a big thing with Silent Hill is its approach to combat. You don't always have to do it. I'm not saying that because it's awful combat. My main point is the fact that either you do it or you don't, and it's up to you. So the controls are, you can do a weak attack with R1 and a strong attack with R2. Again, dodge with the circle button. You can open your items by holding L1 and use the face buttons to select an item, and R1 to switch between the two sections of the menu. This is where you access your health items while in combat. You want to make sure you have a moment where you can utilize your items, as you don't want to get caught in an enemy's attack and lose even more health, or use an item that doesn't take a lot of time to use. It's up to you. Also, you want to make sure you're still stocked up so you don't always want to overutilize any of your items. L2 allows you to focus your sanity in order to use a charged attack, or make it easier to counter enemies. Oh yeah, when you see this Q right here, this is an attack you can counter, but it's so quick that if you miss it, you're screwed. This is because it's linked to the strong attack button, R2, and when you commit to a strong attack, you have to make sure you have the timing down because it has to charge up before you attack. There are only melee weapons in this game, but that doesn't really mean it's not survival-like. This game does keep in the survival aspects of the series, and I think it does it pretty well. For one, you're scavenging for resources around town so you have items to heal with, but also, the weapons have durability, so you have to make sure you A, keep your weapons in shape, or B, make sure you find new weapons around town because you don't know when you'll find another toolkit, so you have something to repair your weapon with. I would often try my hardest to skip combat encounters so I would still have weapons to use, or see if I can just replace a weapon on its knees without using a toolkit. I actually experienced having nothing to fight with at one point, as all my weapons were gone and my only weapon was on the point of breaking. I also had no more health items, and I was getting ganged up by enemies. On top of that, I was struggling with a puzzle, and all this was happening in real time, so the enemies would be attacking me while I was trying to solve the puzzle, so it was incredibly stressful. You also have to make sure you're close enough to the enemies for the hit to count. But you also want to make sure you dodge in time so you don't get hit, because otherwise you'll screw up and lose a bunch of health you really didn't want to lose, making you use more items to regenerate. You also gotta make sure you plan accordingly so you can survive without using up your resources. Also, sometimes you just don't want to get involved because either you don't want to lose your weapons or you just don't want to deal with it. Remember what I said earlier about how I didn't like how the enemies looked or sounded? I think that adds pretty well into the combat, allowing it to be more scary, especially when they're even designed around how they look. Well, when I say that, I mean like they're designed as enemies you don't want to be near. What makes it more stressful is the fact that you can only fight back with melee weapons. So you have to get up close and personal to enemies that are trying to attack you. Some of these attacks try to have the enemies get closer to you or try to grab you, so that's one thing I like about the combat. I always get nervous whenever I'm near an enemy, not even trying to attack it. Like, it's really scary. Oh, and before I forget, there's a stamina system. Dodging takes up stamina and attacking takes up stamina, but if you dodge just in time, it'll refill your entire stamina. Some of my issues are really about the control side of things. I really don't like how the inputs here just stack on top of each other. I often spam the buttons whenever I do anything in combat sections of games, or when I play any game with combat, and this ends up with me dodging way more than I need to, or doing one more attack when I'm done with the combat. Plus, with attacks and dodging being tied to stamina, I end up using way too much to where I would more often than not have no stamina to attack. It kind of feels unfair to me because I end up in situations where I didn't deserve to lose the amount of stamina I did, and I have less stamina to use when attacking. I don't really mind the stamina system at all. It does force you to be more sparing with how you use your stamina as to not be open to enemy attacks, which is also good in the case of making sure you don't waste your resources. You might want to save your stamina items for later so you wait between attacks, and try to knock out the enemy so you have the time to recover or land more hits, but also so you can relax for a bit. You also have like 3 types of weapons: small, medium, and large. The small weapons are easy to use but don't have good range, and they're relatively weak. Medium weapons are in the middle really, sorta hard to use but can deal quite the damage and has some range. And large, they hit hard, they're really durable, but attacks take longer to charge up. They don't really introduce the large weapons until about later. I almost forgot, you use square to lock onto enemies, and the triangle button is a cycle between your 3 weapons that you have equipped. You can only have 3 weapons. You can also cycle between the weapons with left and right on the D-pad, but it's going to be a lot easier to use triangle when in combat. Also, up on the D-pad opens the journal and down opens the inventory. The combat is serviceable. You don't really want to get too caught up with a bunch of enemies as there's too much to deal with and you could end up losing a lot of your resources. You can get rid of them if you want, but that means your weapon will have less durability for next time. So you have the option to just run away or try to sneak around, and that's perfectly fine. Now, I do want to say that I found the controls a little janky. I don't want to blame it on the game. My computer isn't very powerful, and I'm sure at many points you could see my computer struggle. I don't know how well OBS captures that, but like when running, when I would change directions, it didn't really feel smooth to me. It just kind of felt like Hinako was suddenly changing directions in a way that would probably break her bones. It feels okay when you switch to a direction opposite to the one you're going, but then it would feel weird with changes that aren't too stark. It doesn't matter if it's a small change or a big change that isn't opposite to the current direction, it would still feel weird. I do want to bring up that the button prompt for the interact button would be very finicky, and oftentimes it would be very annoying as I would just want to open a door, but then at some points when I was being chased by an enemy, it would actually add to the stress as I was trying to desperately find the prompt, so it's kind of 50-50 for me. Not like these are amazing, but it's just that those points with enemies chasing me, it was stress-inducing. I don't think every game should copy this, it's often just very annoying. Anyway, we make our way back to Chizuruya and find Sakuko covered in the stuff that grew from her earlier. I am terrified of this. Hinako takes Sakuko inside and rests her body on the floor inside the shop, and then she mourns her death.
ちっちゃい頃の咲く子の夢だったよね。堅苦しい神社じゃなくて駄菓子屋の娘に生まれたかったって。ここならいつでも好きなだけお菓子が食べられるよ。おやすみ、咲く子。
After mourning Sakuko's death, Hinako walks out to find she's being surrounded by a few enemies, and she decides to take her rage out on them. After which, Hinako has a headache and falls to the ground and... Man, I really like this effect. It really looks cool. And now, we enter... Oh wait, that's the wrong... This is another half of the game. Essentially, it's this game's Otherworld. If you're wondering, the Otherworld is basically just an alternate world in the Silent Hill series, but compared to the other series, it's quite different. And honestly, it's cool. These sections are like the dungeons of the game, with a bigger focus on puzzles. There are still some combat encounters, but other than that, your time here is spent mostly on completing puzzles to continue the story. The weapons you find here have infinite durability, this being sort of a mystic realm, so of course the weapons aren't gonna break here. Of course the enemies are harder to deal with. They're also more freaky. You'll also fight a lot of the main bosses here, There are a lot of boss-like enemies you fight, but those are separate from the bosses page. I don't want to spoil the bosses yet until I get to the story part, so for now, I really like how this place looks. It's very atmospheric and pretty creepy at points. I also liked quite a lot of the puzzles here. They were really interesting. I will say, it kind of felt weird going straight into this world outside of the dungeon-like places in the regular world. They still have it happen for like one location. At least that's how it felt to me when I experienced it for the first time. I know this game is a spin-off. I just thought I'd mention it kind of felt weird, but it does tie into the story pretty well. If I'm gonna be honest, I thought I would have a lot more to say here, but because I want to split this up into sections and also don't want to spoil the story until I've made it clear that it's that time, I think I'm ready to get started on the section that's gonna make me look like an idiot for sure. The puzzle. When I initially played, I played with the default settings because the game told me it was the Silent Hill experience. For one, in retrospect, I don't think that an action difficulty of story should be the default. If you're looking for more of a survival aspect that is most like the survival horror of Silent Hill, and you feel you're not ready for Lost in the Fog mode, go full on hard mode. A lot more of the time in that mode, I felt like I was surviving. Sorry about that. This section is on the puzzles. I played on hard mode with the puzzles, and some of them gave me a pretty hard time. Some of them were like really easy, but others I had to think about before I solved it. Some of these puzzles were really memorable, mainly for everything around it. One of my favorite moments was around the first Dark Shrine section. One of the first puzzles, well, it doesn't really feel much like a puzzle on hard mode. It sure does in Lost in the Fog mode, but so you have to find the code to this lock on the door. In order to access the key, you need to progress, right? So you find out you need to do this, and you read a riddle that sort of hints as to what you're looking for, and then this is the whole reason I remember this part. You have to quietly walk around hiding from a monster, referred to as Kamugara, who can only hear and find the symbols on certain Emma, which in real life are wooden plaques that you can write prayers and wishes on for the gods to receive. I'm paraphrasing from Wikipedia. If you don't follow the puzzle and look at the wrong one, it will play a loud sound signaling the monster to come to the location of the sound. Let me just say, whenever the monster is anywhere close to you, this starts to play. It makes me so scared because while I can hear it in the distance, I can't pinpoint where it is, so I get even more scared because this droning noise makes me so stressed. Oh, I forgot to mention, the Emma. These are used in the one puzzle. You can find these other Emma that you can use to upgrade your health, stamina, sanity, and Omamori slots. Omamori in real life are charms. You can find at shrines in Japan. They're really neat and they're really cool. In this game, they give you a sort of boost as to how your character works, like more health, better defensive movements, really a lot of things. I can't believe I haven't mentioned that until I reached the puzzles part. Oh, also the save points are where you can upgrade your stats. Also, you can enshrine your food items to gain faith so you can use it to upgrade your stats or get an Omamori. I really decided to mention that during this section, didn't I? Anyway, another puzzle I really liked was this part. First off, I like the sort of setup in this game. As long as you find the document that sets it up, you're lost all of a sudden in an infinite rice field, and now you have to find your way out by finding the correct scarecrow that will point you in the right direction. This scarecrow has a riddle that will help you pinpoint the correct scarecrow. You have to find the scarecrow that is acting like whatever is written on the paper. I really like this puzzle, and if you pick the wrong scarecrow, they come to life and this is the next big enemy type. The Aya Kakashi. In their base state as enemies and outside of this puzzle, they stand there motionless looking all creepy. From here, they either move when you're not looking at them or wait until you get close and then... Another thing to note is they move faster when you don't look at them. I also hate their walking sound, and I mean that in a good way because if you like the sounds that a monster makes in a horror game, firstly, there's a problem with you, and secondly, that leads to your monster being less scary. Now, you do not want to be pursued by an enemy, depending on how many resources you have at the moment, but generally you don't, because you end up ruining your weapons and losing more items, and now you have 10 of these guys chasing you while you're struggling to solve this puzzle without getting hit or using any more of your weapon's durability because you have no toolkits, and you can't take on 10 enemies at a time. That's impossible. At least that happened to me. I really like this punishment for the player because there are some stakes here with worrying that you'll pick the wrong scarecrow and have to deal with these guys. I know some people might find it annoying. Yeah, it is pretty annoying to deal with 11 enemies chasing you all the time when you have to look at them and make sure not a single one is speeding up to catch you. But if that's why I shouldn't mess up, then I'll want to do my best. I also like the stress it puts on you, because you're worried you're going to get hit because the whole puzzle is in real time. So yeah, this whole game is stressful, and I think it very much adds on to the... This game at many points made me uncomfortable. And I wouldn't have it any other way. There are some scares I would like to go over, but I don't want to spoil anything yet. I will say the sound design is pretty good. In the other games, the way you would know if there was an enemy nearby was, well, one, the sounds they made, but if you wanted to know how close they were, you had a pocket radio screeching at you. The stress of hearing an enemy and then hearing the radio start blaring while in the dense, foggy streets, or incredibly dark streets, it's really stressful. Now, with this game being set in 1960s Japan, there's no pocket radio because the technology didn't allow for it yet. Okay, maybe it's just fair to assume that either maybe there isn't one anywhere in this town, or since this was a spin-off, they just decided not to include the radio. But they still found a way to sort of include some semblance of it with the ambience. While the ambience is playing, if you start hearing a strange noise, run. Along with the very strange or gross sounding sounds these enemies make, I really do not want to be near these enemies at all. This game also does a lot of pretty mind-bending stuff at points. It gets really freaky at points. I don't think naming locations will spoil stuff, other than the horror. The school section is already pretty creepy, but then after every major advancement in the section, this happens. Now I have to try and sneak around these guys without even getting close so they wake up. In the original series, whenever you moved rooms or advanced in the section and then left, there was a loading screen which had a small pause, so it made you even more stressed out because you don't know whether or not an enemy will be waiting for you. I remember in Silent Hill 1 in the hospital part, when I moved forward in a place and then I walked out of a room to find a doctor enemy right in front of me, leading me to empty 2 to 3 rounds of ammo on this one enemy, the last half of which I did because I wasn't sure if it was down or not because they're still on the ground, despite the fact there's a tell. In this game, it's even more freakier in real time without loading screens because they were not there before. And there's no loading screen between any room, so instead of it being tense because you don't know whether or not something will be there when the room loads, you're now tense because you don't know when the room will fill with enemies that weren't there before. I'd also like to go back to when I said there's a tell. I kind of wish they kept that in this game. In Silent Hill F, the enemies just disappear once defeated. At first I was kind of sad to see the enemies instantly turn into dust in the wind, instead of maybe waiting for you to walk far enough away or enough rooms away. But then at the first Dark Shrine section, when I took down that initial enemy, it didn't go away. I was already like an hour in, I had accepted that enemies just disappear, and now they're pulling this shit on me. On top of that, Hinako decided to say, "Is it dead?" Which made me look at it and realize it wasn't going away. What a perfect horrifying moment, am I right? In the Dark Shrine sections, enemies will not disappear unless they're near what I already forgot what these were called. They hold a light that will get rid of the enemies. There are also parts where I walked somewhere and then all of a sudden an enemy just walks in or jumps in. That was also pretty freaky. Hinako's house. It was probably the most mind-bending part, as well as disturbing.
間取りが全部変わってる。
At the start, it's a pretty normal house, normal size, but then later you return home and you enter just to find Now, I didn't fully feel the impact when I got here. The most you see of the house is really at the start and around this part, and I didn't really take a long look around the house because I didn't want to stay outside as there were several enemies and I really didn't want to fight anymore. Plus, this is like 8 or so hours into the game. I spent like at most 5 minutes looking around the house at the start of the game. Don't get me wrong, it did kind of freak me out, but not really in a big way like other moments in this game, especially when every other moment left a bigger impact on me than this one. But there were a lot of moments here that got me, like here's one. You can even see me freaking out in the footage. There's also the matter of the impossible house where you go through a repeating 3 houses from different time periods. It gets pretty freaky, but probably the scariest moment was the last one, but I'm not going to talk about it yet because that would be spoiling so much. So I think I've talked all I wanted to about the horror. I was very terrified and uncomfortable, which is good because I'm even more scared than I probably would be without feeling uncomfortable. Now, before I talk about the story, it's amazing, I'll put it at that. We have the series veteran Akira Yamaoka here, as well as a new face, Kensuke Inage. Well, maybe new faces if we're going out the bonus content. There's a few names in here that I don't think I've seen mentioned. I'm not really sure whether or not they made the songs or helped work on them since they're credited. Or maybe I'm overthinking it and it's as simple as whose name is on the track, but let's just credit the rest of these guys because they're here for a reason. We also have, I don't know how to pronounce this, Zaki, Dai, and Kakeru Takera. These last few guys mainly worked on some of the ending tracks or credits themes. My favorite one being I really like how it starts off pretty somber, and then the song goes on and it gets more and more. What does that mean? And then this almost regretful sounding guitar breaks this sort of silence. The atmospheric tracks were also really great, both for the normal world and the other world. I do want to save one theme that I really want to play here, but because of the ending it's tied to, I need you to be caught off guard by it. Alright, spoiler warning. If you've been watching this video and you really want to play and experience this game for yourself, I'd recommend skipping this part because I'm going to get into the story of the game itself. I know I went over the beginning, but like literally the rest of this game, you gotta play blind. So skip this part if you want to skip all the spoilers, and then you can return later and hear what I theorized was actually happening, aka pretty much how I interpreted the story, and then see me compare it to pretty much what the real story was. Last warning. Okay, so you already know how this game starts, and to save time, I'm going to try my best to summarize this so it doesn't take up too much time. I don't feel like making another 1-hour video. So, in between Hinako being in the normal world, she's also at the Dark Shrine, trying to work towards something. She's following this fox mask guy, and it's also kind of weird because this might be the afterlife. I'm not sure yet. This is our first Dark Shrine puzzle in the whole game, and it's important that I showed you this. We also eventually catch up with our friends, but it gets a little strange.
Rinko! 俺だ! シュウだ! いるなら返事してくれ!
シュウ君来てくれたんだ。あ、ひなこも無事でよかった。
Rinko has been acting a little weird for a while, but we also hear from Sakuko again.
ひなこ、こっちだよ。
サクコ
Please don't do this to me again. Don't bring another character back to life.
サクコ ひなこ 助けに来たよ
So, we fight Sakuko as a boss fight. The boss fight is pretty good. You have to dodge close range and long range attacks. She even changes how she uses her long range attack depending on where you are. She has one phase she goes through where she teleports to a random part of the arena and charges up a sanity draining attack. I have no idea what happens if you get hit by this with no sanity left. I think you might just lose health. I'm not sure. It's a pretty cool boss, and after we survive, the fox mask guy sends her away. At the nearby purification fountain outside of the main temple, which the fox mask guy adds the water to, this happens.
Yeah.
大丈夫。ただの水だよ。
So Hinako and her friends are trying to get out of town. That's like the main plan. They make their way to Shu's house as there's a mountain path that leads out of the village. There was a bridge, but it's been mysteriously destroyed. So off they go to Shu's house. They hit a few roadblocks and there are a few strange moments.
正常な状態じゃない。正気を失ってるだけなんだ。俺を信じろ。俺だけを見ていろ。お前のことを理解しているのは俺一人だけなんだって知っているだろ。
よく聞いてひなこをほっといて。もう手遅れなの。どうしようもない。このままさ何の役にも。
今は俺も分からないんだ。苦しんでる。このままにしておく。
しゅうくん、嘘ついてるよね。
知らねえよ。
騙せてると思う？ひなこを。
ひなこ、遅かったな。心配したぜ。
心配してなかったよ。相棒なら絶対に大丈夫って言ってた。そうか。ありがとう。
やめてくれ。そんな話今はしたくない。
やめないよ。しゅうくんがしっかりと現実を見るまでやめない。
だからやめてくれ。俺は。
なら言ってあげる。ひなこはね、死んだんだよ。ひなこは向こうの世界で楽しくやっているんだから。
相棒、遅かったな。さあ行こうぜ。
We eventually reach the one path that'll lead to Shu's house, and it's locked. So now they have to look for the key within the abandoned middle school. Well, I said they, it's mainly Hinako who searches for the key, while Rinko and Shu rest. And when she finds the key, Rinko and Shu tell Hinako that it's her turn to rest.
私としゅうくんで寝ずの番をしててあげるから。
いや、私は本当に大丈夫。
ひなこ、休めよ。あとは俺たちが見張っておくから。
おやすみ、ひなこ。でもさ、しゅうくんもああいうの好きでしょ。
This leads to the... We have to say farewell now. How do we say farewell?
彼の気持ち考えたことある？ひなこ！ひなこ、助けて、行かないで。待って、行かないで。ずっと一緒って約束したじゃん。ギラギラまだ。
This part was incredibly uncomfortable, and it hurts even more because literally I have no other choice here. I do like how the stage is designed, especially some of the puzzles. The whole place revolves around the switch puzzle, where you can switch on one path or the other with 2 switches, and it's really cool. The enemies have also been getting progressively weird. There was this one which makes these noises, and the way that attacks, I don't want it near me. It's called the Harai Katashiro. We also have the Oi Omoi. They scream, and they attack like this. There's also another new enemy which... What the fuck? I think this game nails the enemy designs because I really don't want to look at any of these enemies, nor do I want to be anywhere near them, especially with how they function and the risk of getting close to attack. The designs are really good in that regard. After the whole farewell thing, Shu and Rinko are gone now. Hinako follows the path up to Shu's house, thinking she'll meet them there. She eventually reaches Shu's house and begins to wait for them, and then...
Shu!
And now we've reached the next really uncomfortable section. So, Hinako changes her arm, she gets a scar, and then she gets a new face. I'm gonna leave you with that. The whole time it's really hard to watch, the part about the face especially. This whole part changes the gameplay in the Otherworld sections. You now have a giant fox arm, and you have a flurry mode where you click both sticks to enter it if the gauge is full. In this mode, any damage you take will only lower this meter, which is slowly going down. Your attacks are also a lot stronger. And now we're... Is this a wedding ceremony? Something is weird about the priest, though.
Rinko?
It's Rinko. Rinko is a really cool boss. She has these lava-themed attacks. Oh. There are these, I think, Rinko clones. If they get hit by a lava attack, or I think after a certain period of time, they start flaming and become a timed hazard. Oh wait, also if you knock one down and then don't siphon their soul, which you can siphon souls by holding down X. You can only do this once you get the fox arm. Rinko also has a mini phase where she randomly sets lava traps before creating a giant explosion around her to try and catch you off guard if you get too close to attack. After the boss, Hinako blacks out again after freaking out over who she is. She then wakes up to a strange phone call. Junko, who is also wearing a mask. She acts very strange here, saying some weird stuff.
あなたが生かされたということは、ここに至ってもまだ迷いがあるということなのね。
迷い？
今日までに何度も言ったかもしれないけれど、もう一度だけ言うわね。生はあなたが選びなさい。誰の意見も聞かなくていい。自分の意志だけで選びなさい。だけれども、これだけは覚えておいて。あなたがそれに悩める時間はもう尽きかけている。いえ、普通の人間ならばとっくに尽きている。
お姉ちゃん。
After she leaves, Hinako makes her way home to find Shu and Rinko. The state of the town by the end is just, man. After escaping a bunch of monsters, we make it home to the house section. Again, I really like how mind-bending this whole stage is. The main puzzle is also really cool. Plus, there are some pretty well-presented flashbacks which show Hinako's family life.
バカ野郎！お前は何度言ったらわかるんだ！
すみませんね。
お前、味ちゃんと見てんのか？薄すぎんだよ！こんなの茶色い泥水じゃねえか！こんなこともまともにできないのか？女に味噌汁が作れなくて何の価値があるんだ！
やめてよ。いつもいい加減にして。
うるせえ！親にその言い方は何だ！引っ込んでろ！
お母さんもお母さんだよ。ちゃんと言い返せばいいじゃない。お父さんもそんなに気に入らないなら自分で作ればいいでしょ。上手なんでしょ、お料理。
ひなこやめて。お父さんにそんな言い方しないで。お母さんが悪いんだよ。ひなこはいいから早く学校に行きな。
お母さん何も悪くないよ。悪いのは全部お父さんだよ。
ひなこ、お父さんにそんなこと言うもんじゃないよ。早く行きな、早く。
お父さんも嫌いだったけど、お母さんも好きじゃなかったな。
Anyway, we get all the pieces for the puzzle. Now we can...
私が見えてるよね。
So, past Hinako is talking now.
とうとう私の声まで聞こえるようになったんだ。そんなとこに立ってないで入ったら、ちょうど話がしたかったところだから。
She's acting all weird.
自分でもおかしいと思うの。自分で自分がわからない感じ。自分の気持ちが自分で理解できない。どういうこと？何の話をしているの？多分あなたは私で、私はあなたじゃない。そういう気がするの。あなたは誰？私がひなこなら、あなたは誰なの？あ、ひなこなのは同じ。でも心はもう清水ひな子じゃないのかもしれない。わけのわからない言い方はやめて。何の話をしているの？あんたこそとぼけるのはやめて。さっきからなんで何もわからないふりをしているの？ねえ、しっかりと私と向き合って、ちゃんと考えて。私はね、あんたをすぐに殺すこともできたんだよ。でもしなかった。なんでかわかる？ちゃんとあんたと清水ひな子と本気で話がしたかったから。私たちは対等に、そして全力で殺し合わなくちゃいけない。なのにあんたは逃げ回るだけ。それどころか真剣に私たちのことを考えようともしていない。これ以上あんたが逃げ回るならもういい。もう今度こそあんたを殺すから。あんた だけじゃないからね。お父さんもお母さんも殺す。この家もこの町も消し去ってやる。リンコもサクコも殺す。そしてもちろんあんたの大切な相棒もね。シュはどこにいるの？ねえ、シュってそんなに大事？あんたのこと未だに宇宙戦争ごっこの相棒だと思ってるんだよ。あんたのこと女だとさえ思ってくれてないんだよ。ただの幼馴染の腐れ縁、死んだって全然問題ない。シュは大切な私の相棒だ。殺されてたまるか。
If you're worried, don't be. We do find our friends here. Oh. Now we're called in by our parents and...
Hinako, 遅かったな。今から始めるところだったぞ。誰のなんだと。それではご一同様、包丁のさえをどうぞご覧くださいよー。なんだその言い草は。
So here's our next two bosses. Well, you really only have to beat one. The other boss is just there, really. You just need to beat the one that the father turned into, and like, that's it. After that, they seem to walk out to their... So now Hinako has gone unconscious, and we're back at the Dark Shrine. This time we're finding some tokens to use for this mural puzzle. This is the most combat-heavy part of this game, and I don't know how many people feel about it. I don't know. I think it can get tedious after a while. On my first playthrough, I didn't really notice it, but there are just so many rooms where you have to fight in order to move on. It's not all that fun. I did enjoy the mural puzzle, it's really good. We also see Junko again and...
しっかりって。
今日だけはお姉ちゃんとあなたの2人だけの秘密にしてあげる。でも今日を超えてまだ生き残っていることがあるのなら お姉ちゃんが彼のためにもあなたを殺すからね。
Anyway, Hinako and the fox mask guy open a door and we're back in the regular world. Now, after seeing her parents die to a monster, she now chases said monster to get her revenge. This part of the game is really freaky and it's going to get a whole lot worse later. Hinako fights hordes and hordes of monsters and she finally reaches the... Wait, isn't that arm...
よくもお父さんをお母さんをお前を許さない絶対に離せ
こんなことだろうと思いました。
Junko?
お姉ちゃん助けて。
これがどれだけ失礼なことかあなたにも十分分かっているはず。殺しなさい。殺しなさい。さあ。
どうしてお姉ちゃん。
それがあなたのためです。死になさい。
So, Hinako is dead, or not? What is happening? Now Hinako and the fox mask guy are doing something and...
それではお別れを。あなたが幸せをつかんでくれることを願っています。
Return home? What do you mean by... I don't know if I should return home. Don't go that way? I mean, I don't want to, but unfortunately I have to. Look, I really can't go anywhere but that way. I'm even going through these mini fights, even though I'm sure you can skip them. Oh wait, you can't? But I'm interacting with this doll in the hopes that it does something that keeps me from going home. I really have no other choice, do I?
ひなこや綺麗だよ。ほらお父さん。
ここはもうお前の家ではない。一人で帰ってきても敷居をまたげると思うな。
So now we're back in the dark. That's normal, Hinako. So now we're going through most of the shrine to reach the center, and on the way we encounter monster after monster, and then we reach the center and...
まさかまだ生き残っていようとは。
お姉ちゃんは所詮は向こう側の人間。私の気持ちなんてわからない。
落ち着いて。あなたがどうしてここにいるかわかる？
わからない。ここはどこ？怖いや。辛い。気持ち悪い。帰りたい。
それは何の？あなたはいつから飲んでるの？
Wait, what? But that was our main health Have we been overdosing this whole game?
もうやめなさい。それを飲むのをやめて。私に構わない
で。Hinako walks up to the first dark shrine puzzle and destroys it. And the final boss is Hinako. I died I think twice. I had used up all my resources like the idiot I am. Don't worry, you don't have to start over because by this point, you don't really die. This boss is pretty good. You have to dodge its attacks and its grab move, which really drains your health. At points, the boss will spawn ground you can't walk on, as it's the growth from the town we saw earlier. If you get too close, it will grab you and hold you while draining your health, until you die or you manage to get out. The boss also teleports close by for this attack, and it tries to catch you off guard, and eventually she makes the whole ground deadly when she's down, so you have to watch your health. I enjoyed this boss, it's okay. The whole boss arena is so cool looking though, I just couldn't forget to mention that. So now we have to escape this place and,
ちょっとどうしたのよ。
これは何の真似だ。大雪様、正気か。
うるさい。どいて。
容赦しない。私に、私たちに誰も構うんじゃねえ。
待ってくれみんな。ひな子は私が話す。ひな子、なぜだ、どうしてお前の心を分かってやれたと思っていたのに。
ひな子、だって約束したじゃない。裏切り者。
どうしてこんなことを。やめなさい。
シュウはだってあんたを
許さない。
ごめんな、ひな子、本当にごめん。俺が間違ってた。俺はただ、でもこんなに苦しくなって。
やめろ。友達の声で話しかけるな。邪魔をするな。私たちの邪魔をするな。
So, do you want to hear how I interpreted the story? This is like probably the best part about the stories of this game series. You can come up with your own theories about what happened or like certain aspects. I don't know, nor do I think this is the real story, or well, we'll find out whether or not this is like the real story or if I got any of this right. But this is all just what I thought really happened in the whole game. Don't take all of it at face value. Again, I am going to check to see how much I got right. Feel free to, I don't know, tell me anything I missed in the comments. I know I've already missed a lot just by trying to sum up the main story the best I can. Just bear with me. So, my interpretation kind of takes a timeline form. So, Hinako has a poor family life, if you couldn't already tell. The only family that she felt was really looking out for her was her sister Junko. She also had her friends Shu, Rinko, and Sakuko, although Hinako met them at different times. Shu was the first one. Hinako started taking painkillers a while after Junko left to get married. Shu is the one to bring her painkillers because he comes from a family who specializes in pharmaceuticals. He was really just worried about his friend who was experiencing constant migraines, but he probably didn't realize how he had inadvertently given Hinako the means to develop a dangerous addiction. Hinako would constantly overdose, which leads to her having a worse mental state. Her father soon decides that to pay off his debts, he's gonna sell Hinako off into marriage, which is absolutely awful. This is where my interpretation kind of falls off. You'll probably see why. So, Hinako then goes off to get married, and once in her 20s she runs away after she reaches a breaking point. Or, she runs away before her 20s? Then she returns to town in a traditional wedding dress and goes on a rampage. In the cutscene where it happens, her parents react as Hinako has returned home. Her father, either from regret or knowing what will come next, looks sad. This cutscene, however, also has Hinako come out and react to this like the cutscene before. It might get a little crazy, but please stay with me here. This whole game happened within Hinako's mind. The real Hinako is stuck within the mind, having to suffer in a foggy version of her town for eternity. Meanwhile, this more violent Hinako is out in the world. My reasoning? Around the final boss, the real Hinako asks for her life back. Hinako's death to the beast before this boss might also represent the end of normal Hinako and Dark Shrine Hinako's fight over control. And after this is over, Hinako is now on the run.
米川により県警本部県道8号線にて当該事案の被疑者と思わしき女性に襲われた男性2名のうち1名は現在心肺停止の状態。
羽倉町1より県警本部一部被害者に使用された包丁ですが敷地内からは発見できず被疑者は現在もこれを所持している可能性が高いと思われます。どうぞ。
県警本部から各局女性被疑者は20代です。花嫁装束身長は 160cm 少々常吉神宮より逃走中凶器を所持している可能性が極めて高い。各局はくれぐれも慎重に対応されたし。
羽倉町1から県警本部被疑者は赤と白のカプセル状の薬のようなものを犯行時に断続的に服用していたとのことです。
県警本部より神楽町1それは式場内で発見された正体不明のカプセル薬と同一のものか。どうぞ。
羽倉町1から県警本部被疑者が服用する際に口からこぼしたカプセル薬を敷地内から
And that's just about my interpretation. Yeah, it might not be the best, but it was really fun trying to piece all these together into, well, at the very least, a sort of interesting interpretation. It's time to see how wrong I was. So, I was somewhat right. I might have had the story going the wrong way at points, but it is Hinako in the end that goes crazy and starts ending lives. I didn't even realize that. And her drug addiction is destroying her mental state. I really love that twist, because that was the main health item you've been using throughout the entire game. And for the two Hinakos, this sort of spawned from when Hinako found out she was being sold into marriage. One is, well, the main one we play as, and the other is the Hinako who is willing to give away her life if it means she'll get married. Jesus. Also, Hinako runs away during the course of the game. Forget the whole time skip thing I proposed where she did get married, or didn't, I don't know. I think it might be a misunderstanding from the police reports in the post-first credits scene. Hinako looks like the figure described in the reports when she donned the wedding dress. Her face was probably hard for people to make out with the wedding dress on. And also maybe the whole foggy town happening in her mind thing could be considered a headcanon. Well, that's cool. I'm glad I made some sense of the story that was correct. Now, there are other endings, but unfortunately I have a deadline on this video, and I literally ran out of the storage space. So this video took way longer to make because I didn't have the footage, and I couldn't get any other endings, unfortunately. But I would like to take some time and talk about how cool New Game Plus is. So some of your key items get carried over, at least the ones that, do get carried over. Not, literally every, key item that you search whole sections of areas to find, which is really cool. And also for two of the endings, if you decide to go for a different ending than the one puzzle you're doing to get an item, will not reset at all, and that's really cool. And it definitely saved me some time when getting the one ending I did actually get, but I'll get into that soon. Also in New Game Plus, you get a lot of new documents and some new doors you can open. And also, Hinako's just a beast now. After the second Dark Shrine section, every subsequent one, she's just Beast Hinako now. And, yeah, I guess... Okay, there's also a secret ending, but if I don't have enough time to get the other two endings, I don't think I will be able to get that one. I'm sorry. Now, the ending I did manage to get... This is a series staple, and probably the best outcome out of all of these endings, even though it's a joke ending. If you don't know, the UFO ending, if you can't believe this, involves aliens. So let me give you the story rundown for Silent Hill F's UFO ending. Hinako leaves her house, she meets up with her friends, the game's opening happens, then Hinako listens to an alien broadcast before returning to Chizuruya.
孫川鉄橋は崩落しています。繰り返します。孫川鉄橋は国籍不明円盤の攻撃により崩落しています。恵比寿ヶ丘地区から東へは脱出できません。繰り返します。
Some more game happens, then Hinako listens to another random broadcast.
おめでとうございます。おめでとうございます。おめでとうございます。
おめでとうございます。おめでとうございます。おめでとうございます。
I do not know why this is reminding me of Evangelion. Some more game happens, then Hinako goes out of her way to find these random alien movie posters in a specific order, and she stops following Shu and Ninko in order to do this. Then after that, she hears a UFO sounding noise. Once she builds up the courage to run into enemy lines, she finds out that the sound is coming from this paper. And on this paper is a review of the alien movie Shu grew up with. Ahem. Although this work features UFOs and humans who are being controlled by aliens, the aliens themselves never make an appearance on screen. Instead, this film illuminates the corrosive power of suspicion. Sometimes, trying to distinguish one's fellow man as friend or foe can be the real horror. In one particular chilling scene, local residents of the town where the UFO was sighted are mistakenly targeted as body-snatching aliens. The accusing humans scream and jeer as they send their own kind to a detention center. What's worse, anyone who dares speak against the group is seen as one of them, and is locked up as well. One can only ask oneself, is coerced solidarity amongst humans really solidarity at all? At the end of the movie, the number of people killed during the alien invasion is shown. Interestingly, far more humans were killed by their fellow man than attacks from UFOs. Perhaps the aliens left Earth at the end not because they lost, but because they believed that humankind was not worth taking over. The Great Space Invasion is a movie that provides somewhat interesting social commentary to its audience, but anyone looking forward to a fun action romp will be sorely disappointed. 6.5 out of 10. After reading some random 6.5 out of 10 review of a movie, Hinako magically catches up with her friends and here's the reveal. Sakuko is alive, and that monster chasing us? It's nothing more than an alien detecting robot that is built to find and destroy aliens. Also, the Sakuko we saw earlier was actually an alien. Since the robot was following Hinako, everyone decides to see who's an alien because either Hinako is an alien or Hinako has been hanging out with an alien. It gets to the point where Shu says something he really shouldn't have said and he gets beaten up for it. Then Hinako's parents arrive and Hinako goes home with them, and I think that Hinako's parents are aliens? Oh yeah, and also all the monsters throughout the game were aliens, I guess. Roll credits. Oh my god, it's Mirror the dog. And that's the UFO ending. I was honestly a little worried about this game when I bought the digital deluxe for $80 because I wanted to have the soundtrack for the video and get some gameplay in early, so working on this video was easier. That ended up not being the case. I was mainly worried because I spent $80 pre-ordering a game that while I was excited for it, I was also worried it wouldn't be good because this is Konami. They've messed it up before, but when I finally got to play the game, I was really blown away. I thought the story was really cool, the gameplay, while at some points a little too combat heavy, and also a bit of a slog at points, was really fun. I really liked the puzzles. I will forever remember the lock puzzle from the first Dark Shrine section for how cool it was. Way more in Lost in the Fog mode, it was a lot more fun. Also the Scarecrow puzzle. I also really liked the visuals. They still looked pretty good, even on like the medium settings I chose so my laptop could run it. If you really like horror games that are looking for something scary, and also like psychological horror, I'd recommend this game. It's pretty fun and highly worth the play. There is a regular release for the 2025 standard of $70, or the deluxe version for $80, which Honestly, I think some of the things included here are stupid. I can't believe I can no longer just unlock costumes for my second playthrough. I shouldn't be paying $10 extra just so I can have my character wearing a silly outfit. I like the option to switch between the outfits. It can allow for ease of access, and you can choose between how you're feeling, be it in the mood, bright mode of in the mood, or silly rabbit costume. I also don't like how I can just use them from the get-go. I think this should have been a free reward included with the base game, like, you made it through our scary game? Here's a silly costume to make it less scary. But I digress. That's Silent Hill F. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment. There's also a bell next to the subscribe button. Click that, you'll get notified of my new videos. Thank you for watching.